The highly anticipated meeting between Bernie Sanders and President Obama at the White House ended a short time ago. Senator Sanders had previously said he planned to stay in the Democratic race through the party's convention in July, despite Hillary Clinton's clinching of the nomination.
But President Obama was expected to use today's conversation to try and press the candidate to drop out for the sake of party unity. Sanders stopped short of doing this in his comments just after that meeting.
Donald Trump would clearly, to my mind, and I think the majority of Americans, be a disaster as President of the United States. I am going to do everything in my power, and I will work as hard as I can to make sure that Donald Trump does not become President of the United States. I will, of course, be competing in the D.C. primary, which will be held next Tuesday. This is the last primary of the Democratic nominating process. Also, I look forward to the full counting of the votes in California, which I suspect will show a much closer vote than the current vote tally. I spoke briefly to Secretary Clinton on Tuesday night, and I congratulated her on her very strong campaign. I look forward to meeting with her in the near future to see how we can work together to defeat Donald Trump and to create a government which represents all of us and not just the 1%. Thank you very much.
Our Nancy Cordes has been following the Democratic race, and she's at the White House. CBS News senior political editor Steve Chaggaris is in Washington, and national politics reporter for Politico, Eli Stokols, is in Arlington, Virginia. All right, let's get to you first, Nancy. Sanders has insisted he will continue to fight until the convention. What is his goal right now by stretching this out, and what might the president have said to convince Sanders to step aside?
So he said he's continuing the fight, Vlad, but he didn't say how. He didn't say whether he'd be continuing the fight for his issues as a candidate, as a backer of Hillary Clinton. He made no mention of a contested convention, as he has in the past. He made no mention of trying to flip superdelegates, as he had in the past. And he said very clearly, as you just played, that he is going to do everything in his power to make sure that Donald Trump does not get elected. That was not a stray comment. He read that from a very carefully prepared remarks. And the point that he was making to Democrats out there who are worried that perhaps he won't get behind Hillary Clinton eventually, that he does plan to work with the party, with Democratic leaders, with Hillary Clinton to go up against Donald Trump. It might not happen tomorrow. He might not drop out before next Tuesday. He might not drop out for a few weeks. But what we saw today was the beginning of the process of Democratic leaders, the president, Bernie Sanders, all sort of coming together, getting on the same script. He's going to be meeting with the Democratic leader, Harry Reid, in about an hour. I thought the most telling thing about his statement today, showing that we sort of moved into a new phase, was that after he spoke, he didn't take any questions. We tried to ask him when he's dropping out of the race. He didn't respond. This is a normally pretty chatty guy who doesn't mind getting tough questions, even if he doesn't think that they're fair. But today he's sticking with the script, as are a lot of other Democratic leaders that we've spoken to.
Nancy, we certainly heard you. We certainly heard you with that question there right after he spoke to the mics. But I want to, Eli, ask you, we know where President Obama, he is really backing Hillary Clinton. That's who he believes, obviously, is going forward. There are moments when you see him in different events, and it's sort of like, hold me back, hold me back. He is ready to go out there and to go after Trump. It's a top priority for him. But how does this impact the race?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think that the president has seen his approval ratings really rise as this primary process has gone on, largely because of what has been taking place with Donald Trump, and because you do have a Democratic nominee, Hillary Clinton, who's been taking the brunt of Republicans' attacks right now. They haven't been talking about President Obama. And we have seen twice in 2008 and 2012 just how good a campaigner Barack Obama is. And so I think the Democrats do look at him as not a secret weapon, but as a serious weapon. And he does seem eager to sort of re-enter the conversation, because he's been on the sidelines, even as the president of the United States, as all the attention has shifted to this election. So I think Democrats are looking forward to him prosecuting a strong case against Trump.
Steve, Secretary Clinton has been in this very same position 8 years ago, but she has been reluctant to tell him forcefully to drop out of the race. She's been sort of treating the whole situation with kid gloves, which I think for Senator Sanders, who seems to be sort of looking for that opportunity when he's ready to do it, is probably in her best interest to do that.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a candidate, and the primary season isn't over, right? And this is the point, I think, that Sanders made today by saying, I'm going to run in the D.C. primary next week, which is the final primary in this process. He has said for months that he's going to let every voter have a say, and so in doing so, he's going to compete in D.C. next week. And, you know, remember what happened in 2008. Hillary Clinton stayed in until the very end, even though the math was not in her favor toward the end there. It was very clear that Obama was going to become the presumptive nominee at some point, and so she stayed in until the end. It took her 4 days to drop out of the race before she got out, and then she eventually endorsed Obama. So the precedent was set, at least in recent history, by her, and so he's you know, she's letting him have his space. Nancy Pelosi came out today and said he's a candidate. He should have his space and how he wants to get out of this race, and so that's what we're seeing.
Nancy, we know that Trump has his own issues within his own party. What does he need to do now? What's the roadmap for him going forward between now and the convention?
For Donald Trump, you mean?
Yes, for Donald Trump.
Well, first of all, he has to stop the bleeding. Every day there are more Republicans on Capitol Hill, people who would be great surrogates for him, great supporters hitting the trail for him, who instead are saying that they can't support him. Some say perhaps they could get back on board if he changes. Others say no way. And now you're even starting to hear some Republicans say something that would have been heresy even just a few weeks ago, which is that not only do they think they can't vote for Donald Trump, but they think that they have to vote for Hillary Clinton. It's not a flood of Republicans at this point, mind you, but the very fact that we've even heard a couple of Republican members of Congress say something like that is a sign of just how dire things are for Donald Trump. He stopped talking about this judge for the most part. He did give that prepared speech, but I think what some Republicans are feeling now is once bitten, twice shy, that, okay, he was able to hold his fire for a day or two, but they've seen this show before, and they worry that he won't be able to stay on script, as the Republican leader Mitch McConnell likes to put it, from now until the convention. And frankly, they are worried about their own legacies and their own reputations, worried about the fact that if they do get behind Donald Trump, then long after he's exited the stage, they will be tied to him.
Nancy Cordes, Eli Stokols, Steve Chaggaris, we thank you as always.
Thank you.